So today what I'd like to do is just discuss the whole idea of making heifer diets and running recipes for heifers in NDS. There's been some real discussion about the use of NDS in or CNCPS in growing heifers. So I'd like to just go through the process real quick. What I'm going to do first is just go to recipes, and I'm going to go to a farm that is my demo farm. If I open the demo farm, you can see I don't have any replacement heifer diets in here. And what I can do is I can just right mouse click on the replacement heifer pin that I set up in the non-lactating barn, and I'm going to just start a new recipe from there. What it'll do is it'll default to the replacement heifer screen right off the bat, and what I can choose from here is number of animals and days in the cycle have little to do with how the model interacts, so I don't mess with those usually. I'm going to leave these as the breed type dairy. I'm going to put the primary breed is Holstein, not choose a secondary breed. There is a little efficiency difference if you do jerseys or small frame hojos, but everything else is done by these inputs, by what you would use as the actual age, the age at first calving, and then the calving interval, that sets up some lactation and repeating cycles for the age of the animal. But for right now, let's just leave it at 13 months. Let's make this thing 800 pounds, this animal that we're going to go to. Her mature body weight, well, let's make her at 1550. And she's not pregnant yet. Body condition of 3. Calf birth size, from what I'm seeing, is a little smaller nowadays. And then one of the big things that we need to do within NDS to help set it up right, kind of a trip up a lot of times, is use the inputted average daily gain input right down here. And what this does is it allows you to set your target, and let's put in 1.9 for today. And then most of our systems today, we are going to use ionophores within the system. So if we do that as a little bit of review, we set up this animal input area for our new recipe, and we can go down through and we can look down here now. We can see once we've set up the mature body size is down here, 4th lactation at about 60 months of age. They're not going to grow any bigger now. And then this gives us the parameter set up from that 85-pound birth weight, 1,500-pound mature size of how the animal grow. What you can do is sneak down here to charts right here, and they've put a nice little graphic together. So inside of animal inputs over here in charts, you get 2 graphs here, and the blue one is the growth chart. So you can see that here is the way the Cornell model is predicting the growth of this animal. So if I hover over the dot over here on 5th calving, that's 1550 as we described. 4th is 1550, so that mature size at about 60 months is achieved. And here's the growth curve. And then I think the first calving button is at that 83% of mama size. So birth weight down here, a nice little graphic here. Here's the current weight of the animal that we described. We put her at 800 pounds at 13 months, so we're right in here. Insemination is here at 15.5 because I think we left that at 24-month calving. So if we wanted to bounce back up here and go to animal type and say, hey, we're progressive, we're going to calve these things at 22 months, then it will bounce back to the chart, and you can see that insemination is right here, and we may be a little light to achieve the 1,500 pound, 1,550 mature body size, because we just moved our age at first calving up a little bit to 22 months. So that's how that works. You get an idea of the interaction, and this is just a graphical picture of everything that you've entered into this animal type. Let me go up here and just put 23 for our demonstration. So again, your inputs here are laying out here on this growth pattern, and what we can do is you can choose to work with the environment also, activity here. We're not going to change a lot of this today for our demonstration, but what we want to do is just change some few parameters. As we look through, these animals will be in a dry lot, basically in my area is what I'm describing. So if you would spend some time doing the management, also you could put in the weather temperatures. The thing I've noticed with basically outside cattle, wind speed has a lot to do with how these animals perform in open lots. And again, you can put your situation in the whatever part of the country you're in. So again, we did animal type, environment, activity, looked at some of the charts, and I've described this animal, put the ionophores in that we're feeding, inputted average daily gain, again, is critical right down here. So now I'm going to jump over to the heifer, to the recipe screen in this heifer, and now I'm going to go ahead and add some ingredients right away. What I might do is just go in and grab a corn S. So let me go grab corn silage. It's probably better than it needs to be. A grass hay here. Let's see, I'll grab this grass hay. If I'm adding feeds in here, I can keep filling my search tab, hitting my brush to clean that off. And then if I want to choose CNCPS feeds only from the CNCPS library, I can use that function. And so I'm going to use some wheat straw. Here we go. Sweet clean. I may use some wet distillers. I may use a Minvit that will take my vitamin. I may even use some RUM&N. Oops, I need to use the RUM&N that I have in here. And let's see, anything else? You can see my feeds that I'm adding are over here. I'll use some soy bean meal just in case. Get that out of the Cornell feed library, 47%. And just for completeness, may use some corn, grain, fine ground, and what we may do is also use some, we are talking about the time of the year, so we may even throw some Clarifly in there. Okay, so I'm proceeding. Here's my feeds. Little quickie, I can right mouse click on as fed and go to logical order. So I put my forages up here first, concentrates, and then my ingredients down here. So what I might want to do is take a quick look, and I'm going to feed this animal 8 pounds corn silage, 4 pounds of grass hay, 2 pounds of straw, 5 pounds of 5 pounds as fed of wet distillers. and then maybe a pound of corn. And as I start building this animal, what it's giving me is the ME and MP for average daily gain right here, and I can make sure that's average daily gain, not shrunk daily gain. So may need a little more distillers. And as we continue to manipulate the diet around here, and my min bit would be fed at a 10th. Now there's really quickly, and this goes into the whole additive section, not really the heifer section, but looking at these two feeds, if I've got my Clarifly, if I go to the analysis of the Clarifly, I can create a user nutrient that would be the additive or the active ingredient in Clarifly. But the new way of doing that is there's an additive tab on these ingredients. So if I click on my additive tab, you can see that the active ingredient in the Clarifly is listed here in milligrams per pound. So I know, I think that Clarifly feeding rate is 4 milligrams per 100 pounds, and if these are 8, I would be at 32, so 0.001. And I'm coming up with that Clarify level. Oh, I think what I need to make sure is the Clarify here added in the right way. Anyway, I can do a different tutorial on that showing here's my Clarify level. So I'm be at 0.001, 0.01. And there's my 30 milligrams of that product in that diet. Ruminants in the same way. I would be feeding, and there's my 180 milligrams per day. So the predictions now are coming out. I'm feeding about 20 pounds of dry matter, 43 pounds as fed in the TMR. The prediction for dry matter intake is 20.6, so I'm pretty close. The idea what we do in these heifer feed yards is to feed the animals to a clean bunk and allow them to have a clean bunk for 3 to 4 hours a day. And so we target feed the animal. So what we can do is go back to our feed watch and easy feeds and look at this amount of intake going into this animal described like this, and I'll get about a 2-pound gain on this thing, on this animal, on this pen of animals. What I found is that with the CNCPS now, the predictions that we would see basically are, they're very close to the energy gains. And since we started utilizing the 6.55 biology, the protein gains are over exaggerated. So again, in a breeding group of Holstein heifers, my crude protein would be somewhere between 12 and 14. So I can manipulate this a little bit. When we're using 6.5 biology and using the SAO equation down here instead of the Norfor equation, what I noticed is my MP predictions were right on what the animal would perform, but the energies were always less. by 5 or 7%, but my animals would grow to my protein prediction. Now, since we're using the NOR4 equation, which slows passage rate of forage down, I'm finding that the ME predictions using CNCPS are right on target. The MP predictions are over-exaggerated. So I would expect this group of animals to be hitting 1.8, 1.9, 2-pound average daily gain in taking this amount. The one factor here in our demonstration is this is probably a better corn silage than we would use in most feed yards down here doing heifers. In the dairies that you're growing heifers, it may be the real situation where you're using a pretty good corn silage on here. A good run through and do minerals and down here and go down through and add our calcium and our trace packs and stuff to make sure we're hitting those levels. But I think for a demonstration, what I would do then is I would go up, if I'm happy with this diet, I would save the diet, and then this is my demo herd, so I would call it demo. It's my breeding group or 800 pounders. And then I would apply the date. And then I go ahead and make sure that that is the same here. It's going to appear within my external file under the replacement heifer, and then I'm good with that. Now the other cool thing that you can do as you're here now, we chose to do the 800-pound heifer. Now what I can do is I can change my animal inputs. Now we're going to do a 500-pound average animal in that group. She's going to be 7.5 months, and I still want that 2-pound average daily gain. Now what I can do is go back to this animal and manipulate. The intake prediction is going to be at 12, and I know, so I've changed my intake, but I know I'm going to need more protein in that young growing animal. And so here's where I might back off some of the distillers and put in some higher quality proteins to get that growth in that animal, feeding a little more corn grain, and back off some of the distillers and some of that until I found this proper ration. Might even want to put in, make an investment into this animal and actually feed some alfalfa. We got, some of the feed yard guys are doing that. Of course, some of your dairy guys are too. So you have a poor quality alfalfa hay. Let's choose this one out of the Cornell Feed Library. Again, I can grab it up here and move it up here. You may want to use it instead of the straw. And then again, what we can do is make sure that we've got a pretty decent diet for this animal. Then the idea of doing that is I've changed this around. Now I have changed this into my 500-pound animal. I can save as and go ahead and change this to 500 pound. And then as I'm done, of course I might want to change some of the mineral vitamin specs too, but as I save in another pin, what I can do is, if I had created a heifer pin for that 500-pound heifer, I can save that and I can put it in another pin. In my demonstration here, I'll set it in the replacement heifer pin. But what I can do is put a replacement heifer pin in my farm structure that would say 800-pound heifer, another pin that would say 500-pound heifer, another pin that would say bred heifer, pregnant heifer. So for right now, I'll just throw it in my steer. Oops, doesn't want me to do that. I'll just stick it right here in that replacement heifer pen. But you can see from when I build one heifer recipe, then I can bounce over and build another by changing the specs, and then make sure I save in another pen if I wanted to put those in different pens on the same farm. So with that, again, the idea, CNCPS has been phenomenal as far as predicting growth. When we were using the 6.5, the idea was, I think it predicted protein growth very accurately. And then what I was finding was the ME growth was usually 5 to 7% lower, and the animals would, when we measured periods of animals repeatedly every month, every 3 weeks, we're in these big feed yards redoing the, looking at the diets, looking at intakes, looking at growth. The MP predictions were the best accurate calculation for predicting the average daily gain on those growth of those animals, looking at good frame growth, not just weight, average daily gain, but looking at growth on a heifer. Right now, using the 6.55 and the enhanced forage passage rate from Norfor, what we're seeing is that ME prediction is the best thing to look at. So hopefully that helps you just looking at how to do heifer diets. If you have any questions, get a hold of us at NDS or RUM&N, and we can go through some more of that with you. But thanks for listening to this.